Now is the winter of our discontent, made glorious summer by this son of York. And all the clouds that lord upon this house in the deep bosom of the ocean buried. Now are our brows bound with victorious wreaths, our bruised arms hung up with monuments, our stern alarms charged to merry meetings, our dreadful marches to delightful measures. Grim-visaged war hath smoothed his wrinkled front, and now, instead of mounting barbed steeds to fright the souls of fearful adversaries, he capers nimbly in a lady's chamber to the lascivious pleasing of a lute. But I, that am not shaped for sportive tricks, nor made to court an amorous looking-glass, I, that am rudely stamped and want love's majesty to strut before a wanton ambling nymph, I, that am curtailed of this fair proportion, cheated of feature by dissembling nature, deformed, unfinished, sent before my time into this breathing world, scarce half made up, and that so lamely and unfashionable that dogs bark at me as I halt by them. Why I in this weak, piping time of peace have no delight to pass away the time, unless to spy my shadow in the sun and descant on mine own deformity, and therefore, since I cannot prove a lover to entertain these fair, well-spoken days, I am determined to prove a villain and hate the idle pleasures of these days. Plots I have laid, inductions dangerous by drunken prophecies, libels, and dreams, to set my brother Clarence and the king in deadly hate, the one against the other. And if King Edward be as true and just as I am subtle, false, and treacherous, this day should Clarence closely be mewed up about a prophecy which says that G, of Edward's heirs, the murderer shall be. Dive thoughts down to my soul. Here Clarence comes. Boop. Hey. So, tonight, I want to talk about Richard the Third. Like Kermit the Frog, but like way, I'm hesitant to say cooler, but maybe a little cooler. Nothing against frogs, but Richard the Third, like, was a bit of a bitch, and I think that's interesting. So, hi. I'm Reese, legally, as of yesterday. This is Fen. She's sleeping. She will not be of use throughout the entirety of this live session. I'm a Shakespeare scholar. I don't know that I can say scholar without air quotes about myself because I don't have a degree in it. But I'm one of the biggest Shakespeare nerds that I know. Point being, I do this shit for fun. Unless you decide you want to support me on Patreon, and then I'll be doing it for money. Okay, enough of that shit. Tonight we're talking about Richard III. I will also be drinking Kirkland sparkling water. This is this is diet caffeine free Coke. Sans label, so that maybe I could monetize this someday. I don't know. And this is peppermint tea. I have my, as my spouse calls it, bebida stand. I don't know if anyone else is like me, but I have at any given time at least 3 drinks going all at once. Who knows why? Anyway, none of that has anything to do with what I actually want to work on today. And that is Richard III. To be honest, I'm not sure why I picked Richard III for the second week of January. All I know is that that is what I've laid out for myself. And so that's what I'm doing. Last week I did Romeo and Juliet. And now here I am doing Richard III. And to be honest, last week I had kind of done a preliminary sketch. This week for Richard, I'm going in with nothing. I did read the play, and in fact had performed in it quite recently. It was October that I performed in this play. I played Murderer, and number 1, and Tyrrell. So I have, and I was one of the princes too. So I've done a little bit with this play, but not enough to know really what's going on. So it's up to my readings of it and kind of what I know from my friends. Few, but greatly appreciated though they be. Yeah, I have no idea what I'm going to be doing today as far as this drawing. I started kind of with that cold opening of that, like, the speech. Not even like the speech from Shakespeare, but like just the speech. You know, now is the winter of our discontent is one of those things that is so widely known and so often quoted, and I don't think folks know, 1, where it's from, and 2, what the point of it is. But I don't know, it was kind of a cold read just a second ago that I looked at it, and it was something more than just jealousy. A little bit more than jealousy. But I think jealousy is a big piece of it. I like that he's saying, like in the second half especially, that he's not physically kind of capable or acceptable to be what his brother is. It's more than jealousy. But I don't know that I can explain necessarily that it's more than that. It's more of a feeling I get when I read it. That even those first two lines, now is the winter of our discontent, made glorious summer by the son of York. It could almost be sarcastic. And I know that acting teachers would tell me that that's like the cheap answer, the simple response to be sarcastic. But I'm not going to rule it out as a possibility. Anyway, I reread the play. And Lord, it's long. And there's a lot. So what I, in the end, decided is that I want to approach this particular card with the kind of focus of this first speech, which is, again, like one of the Shakespeare speeches. Like, you ask someone to quote Shakespeare and they'll go, now is the winter of our discontent. Can they go further? Usually not. But I can't blame those people because going further would be silliness. That's enough, really. Now is the winter of our discontent. That's plenty. You don't need to go further than that. But I think in the end, I suspect folks lack any context for Richard III in general, not realizing how complex a character historical Richard was. That's a great point. That is a great point. So this particular play, while it is a history, Shakespeare did take liberty, as all authors do, to he had his sources. He had his historical sources, but even those were years and years and years, sometimes centuries removed from the time that they're talking about. So in a lot of cases, Shakespeare's histories are based on other people's histories. So by the time Shakespeare wrote Richard III, he didn't have the answers. He didn't know what happened to the princes in the tower. There was rumor, and in, I think, the 1800s, there were bodies, but there's no evidence that says, as far as I know, there's no evidence that says that these things happened the way they happened in the play. But Richard III, goodness, some would call him a tyrant, I guess. But I have a soft spot in my heart for him, just as a human. So, actually, in this speech that I'm going to be focusing on when I'm drawing, he says, I that am curtailed of this fair proportion, cheated of feature by dissembling nature, deformed, unfinished, sent before my time into this breathing world, scarce half made up, so lamely and unfashionable that dogs bark at me as I halt by them. First, dogs bark at anybody that walks by them. I mean, like, you're not that special, Richard. But the fact that he has this historical reputation for being a hunchback is interesting. And as far as I know, historically accurate. When they did finally find his body, it was really recently, like in the 2010s sometime, I think, that they found him under a parking lot. They did find evidence of spinal curvature. So Shakespeare here is definitely suggesting that there was a physical disability here, which is what I think speaks so strongly to me, is that this guy has been maybe pushed aside all his life because he's not worthy of a normal life. He's not worthy of love. He's not worthy of all these things. In fact, he's so messed up that dogs bark at him when they see him. And that's real fucked up to me. Yeah, it's real fucked up. I don't appreciate it. But, you know, that's the history, I guess. That's what people thought or assumed. So this is kind of why I have such a soft spot in my heart for Richard III. Despite the fact that he murdered children. You shouldn't have... PSA, you shouldn't have soft spots in your heart for people who murder children. But, like, I feel like according to this history, I could see why. You know, he's been just abused, and he's trying to prove himself as a leader. So while I don't agree with what he did, I understand why he did it, I think. It's like that urge to punch people at the DMV versus, like, not punching people at the DMV. I understand why you would want to, but as a decent person, I'm not going to. Which was strangely and amazingly not my experience today. The people at the DMV were amazing today, and I'm like, I don't know, it wasn't, I mean, I spent from 7 to 1 at the DMV today, and I didn't hate it. It was bad, and my spine hurts, and I'm, like, trying to get this drawing done as soon as possible so that I can lay horizontally in bed. But, it could have been worse. But yeah, you know, it's that same kind of idea. Like, I understand why you'd want to not, or why you'd want to do something versus, like, actually doing it. That's the thing. And I don't know if that's necessarily what I want to what I want to show in this card necessarily. I do know that I love the idea of winter and discontent, because, like, most people don't like winter, so I feel like I want to show winter in some way, but how I'm going to show winter. I'm not entirely sure. Whenever I think of winter, I think of mountains. It's like snow-capped mountains. And like, I don't know, frozen lakes. But I don't want to be too literal about like the winter of our discontent. I think that it can be winter without it being actual meteorological winter. And yet he's talking about peacetime. So like maybe this guy just really, and like summer to him is upheaval. And winter is the peacetime. Because he says, what does he say? Our stern alarms changed to merry meetings, our dreadful marches to delightful measures. Grim-visaged war hath smoothed his wrinkled front. And now, instead of mounting barbed steeds to fright the souls of fair adversaries, he capers nimbly in a lady's chamber to the lascivious pleasing of a lute. So we've just won a battle. We're doing well. As a nation, as a group, as a family. And yet it is the winter. And it is our discontent. So I'm not convinced that this card is perhaps a positive one. I think that there's a lot to be positive about in Richard III, but in general, I think not. So I find the phrase intriguing that there might be an opposite to the winter to a summer of discontent. And how might our discontent fluctuate between better and worse? Oh, that is interesting. So like, this is the winter of our discontent. So are we talking about physical meteorological winter? Or are we talking about the barrenness of winter? It could be the summer of discontent. What difference would that make? Now is the summer of our... It's easy to be discontented in winter. Because it's fucking cold. And you're hungry. And you're fucking cold. But the summer of discontent, where it's like nice and warm and the sun stays out extra late, especially in the UK where Shakespeare was writing, it's pretty far north. When I was staying there in Oxford over a summer, it was like 10:30 before the sun went down on those nights. It stayed bright late. So imagine the summer. Imagine the sun being out all day and half the night, and it's still bad. That would be a whole different thing. Which makes me want to look into, I think, the historical time period that the play was actually put on or was set. Are we in the winter at the start? In the play? Or did it go on in the winter? I'd have to look. I don't actually know that. All I know is that famous line that nobody thinks about. Now is the winter of our discontent. Why is it winter? Like, what does that actually mean? I don't know. I'm a Shakespeare air quote scholar. I don't actually know anything. Now is the winter of our discontent. I feel like I'm just kind of sketching now as my heart feels inclined, basically. Kind of an automatic drawing situation. I don't know. This is, I feel like, gonna be a tree, but at the same time, I mean, who even knows? Could be anything, could be nothing. I realize I'm not being a good host right now by being silent, and I'm now here to facilitate conversation with the people who are or are not watching. So, yeah, talk to me. Especially if you've read Richard III. I'd be intrigued. Or, even if you've played Richard III or played in Richard III, that would be, or like studied it extensively, that would be really cool. I'd love to hear the thoughts about it as I'm doing whatever the hell it is I'm doing. I think the key here is to just feel like starting with shadows with this particular one. And I don't know, maybe it's the subject matter, or maybe it's the drawing that I've decided to do. But I want there to be some pretty intense shading going on here. I feel like that's item number 1. And maybe I'm focusing too much on discontent. But if I wasn't meant to focus on the word discontent, it wouldn't be in the first line of the play, I think. I think that's the kind of beauty and mystery of Shakespeare, is that like we both think too much about his words, and at the same time we don't think enough about them. It's the first line in a 3-hour play, like minimum 3-hour play. And it's got the word winter. It's got the word now. It's got the word discontent, hour. It's got all these words in it that just really bring it home to me that it's not just the story of an ancient king. It's my story. It's our story. It's everyone's story who's ever wanted something they couldn't have, or has been jealous. Oh no, I think my program just crashed. Let's see. Oh, it's back. It's like Shakespeare, he could have written something like sometimes life is just a little bit shit. You know, he could have said that, but he said, now is the winter of our discontent. He could have said anything, but no, he made it about us. He made it about our discontent. He made it timeless. Now is the hour. He made it just so freaking relatable. Now is the winter of our discontent. So it's not even like a full year. It's just the winter. It's just the winter. Now is the winter of our discontent. I think I said hour a second ago, but I meant winter. But that's the thing. Winter can seem like an hour when you're in North Carolina, when it's almost 70 degrees on the 10th of January. Well, Richard III was a man who had a lot of discontent inside him. Whatever demons drove the man were certainly not kind to him. I love that we're saying that the demons inside, like whatever was eating him, wasn't kind. It wasn't that the man himself was wrong. It was whatever was, how he was raised, how he had lived, his experiences had told him that he was the monster that he was. Because I'm not going to say that he was a good man. I won't go that far, because he was an asshole. But I also think that he was a product of you know, what he was kind of raised, what he was kind of told to be, kind of just his experiences as a person turned him into what he was. And feel free to tell me I'm insane because I kind of always feel for the outcasts and the people who are misunderstood in a way. And I'm probably pretty problematic for that. But also, these are fictionalized versions of these people. So, it's like it's hard to actually say like how I feel about the actual historical character of Richard III, because historically I don't know a lot about him as the actual person. I only know that he was disabled, and that he murdered a couple people. But from my understanding, not being a royal myself, is that murdering your family is like normal. I don't know. What is normal? It's all cultural, right? I don't know. Like, I wouldn't kill my family. But that's not that's because I'm not like a white European colonial like 1400s person. Apparently those people just killed their family willy-nilly. And that was normal and okay. In fact, you get plays written about you if you do that. But yeah, I feel like he's been vilified in such a way that is unfair to him. Even historically, from what I understand. I don't think he was any more or less murderous than any of the other, like, old school British, English royals. I'm pretty sure they were all assholes, every one of them. But this guy gets a bad rap probably because he killed the kids, to be honest. I'm going to assume that's why. But I bet the other guys did just as much, like, creepy young people murder. Right, the people who were looking for his body wanted to rehab his reputation. I think that's really interesting too, because I think I'm on the same team where, like, yeah, he was a bad guy, but they're all bad guys. No guy is more bad than another bad guy, especially in that time when we don't have the facts. We just have essentially what Shakespeare wrote about them, which is theater and therefore sensationalized, so we don't know necessarily. They did find 2 bodies under some stairs in the Tower of London that we assume are the corpses of the princes, but like DNA has not been allowed to be like extracted from those bodies, so we don't know if those are the princes, let alone we don't know how they died, or all we have is like skeletons at this point. Do we even have those? I feel like they were buried in like the 1800s somewhere else. I don't know. I could be giving you #false news, but I don't know off the top of my head necessarily. All I know is that anything from history that we think is a fact is, subject to the winners, basically. But I do think it's interesting that there's a whole group of people out there who were trying to kind of like kind of wiped his slate clean as far as Richard III's reputation went. There are some people who, like, man, belief about this guy is all over the place. Some people will say, like, he wasn't, Sean, you don't know anything. I'm a Richard III apologist. I might be. I really might be. Because as a disabled person, I'm just like, sometimes we gotta do what we can to, like, prove that we're worth being in charge. Again, I'll say that killing children isn't probably the answer to that. And personally, I also think he probably did it. Because I would probably do it. But yeah, anyway, I think that the character. I don't know about the person. Again, I don't know about the person. I've never met the guy, but I think the character is misunderstood. That, like, we've all seen those movies in modern day, right? Where the character's like, he's wearing high water pants, he's like, I'll do whatever I can to be in the cool crowd. I feel like Richard was just trying to, like, prove himself. And in those days, in that climate, what he needed to do to prove himself was to eliminate his competition to the throne. Which I would like to actually research when that stopped being a thing. When did we, when is Harry gonna kill William? When did that stop being, like, the normal thing? I need to find a book about this. Surely some nerd has written a book about when royals stopped killing each other to secure their places on the throne. And it probably actually hasn't even stopped yet, honestly. Oh, excellent advice. I don't know why I said that in a terrible British accent, but here we are. Here we are. I actually don't know if I... Right, 1700 sounds about normal for people not killing each other anymore. But I have no idea. Like, I literally need to find a book about this. If only I knew somebody who worked in educational publishing, I would find that book myself. I hate drawing curves. I hate it. Slow and steady. Anglo-Saxon royals getting rid of each other. So where do you draw the line? This is exactly what I'm saying. Like, we read this play and go, oh my God, he's such a monster for killing those children. And I bet even in his day, he's a monster for killing those children. But there was a time when that was expected. That like, you would secure your place as the alpha. when did the shift happen from like, yep, that's just a human doing human instinct stuff, you know, killing everybody who, regardless of age or gender, who could like assert their power over his power, to like, oh no, those people are in a protected group. You can't touch them. I would really like to see the history of when it became like, or maybe it's always been taboo to kill young people. But the like amount of times that it happens, it makes me think that it's like a disgusting human nature that we've had to evolve out of, you know? I want to see some studies. That's all. I just want to see some studies about when did we, like, human nature. Human nature, man, is just like an interesting thing. How we evolve out of it. Enlightenment and such. When did the Enlightenment happen? If I was Bob Ross, these would be happy little trees, perhaps. The concentration of power. That's a really interesting thought too. Like, what if like it wasn't always like one person is the power? What if there were, what if it was possible to have smaller like instances, I would guess, is a way to say it. Maybe smaller communities. There we go. Communities, definitely. I suspect one reason Victoria put all her kids on the thrones of Europe to prevent this kind of fratricide. So we're hypothesizing that even in Victorian times, it was like a potential thing to just off children to secure your power. Which it doesn't really shock me. Think to the Russian family. What were their names? But where they killed the whole family. Rasputin, those guys. What was their family name? My mind is blanking. But yeah, I feel like it's more modern than we kind of allow it to be. So, but we're looking at the 1600s here, the Romanovs. Thank you. We're looking at the 1600s for this particular Shakespeare play, when putting these children to death, and not even just the children, the ghosts came back for each of the people that Richard had killed, regardless of age or gender, came back to haunt him. So while it may have been like a normal thing for someone actively thinking about securing power, it must have been a terrible thing to think about for someone just trying to, come to terms with being people, maybe, which like makes me think about so many, like it makes me think about so much else, like that, like there was such a divide. There was such a divide between what's acceptable for royalty, where it would be like, yep, killed the whole family, you know, gotta secure my place, whatever. And then the people who are experiencing that loss outside of the royal families. Oh, there is a torrent outside. I should be doing the Tempest right now. Thanks for coming, Sean. But that's a fascinating thought to have as well, to think about how the different classes imagined and thought about these different aspects of, I'm hesitant to call it humanity, but power, definitely. So, I got me some weird-ass trees here. Love me some weird-ass trees. There's one thing that anyone has said about me, it's that I like me some weird-ass trees. And honestly, one could argue, are they even trees? That's for you to figure out for yourself. But I think the general idea is there. I'm gonna go a little bit further up with this one, actually. There we go. Where did this storm come from? Holy cow. It's like pounding rain against the window right now. It's kind of appropriate. My phone I'm using for my webcam, so I was gonna look up the weather, but I can't. I was gonna see, how long is this gonna keep going for? It is really going, though. I'm gonna have to check and make sure that my house hasn't blown away. Listen. Did it really a few hours ago, so it's coming from south. Interesting. I'm like so out of touch with the weather right now. Is there like a storm in like the Gulf or something that's affecting the rest of us? What's going on? That it affected, because you're in Georgia, right? Like, this is massive. Listen, an hour plus to look forward to. I mean, for me, that sounds great. I love a good storm. I love storms. But at the same time, when I'm like trying to do stuff, I'm like, yeah, it's for sure gonna break everything, isn't it? Blame Canada. I've heard that that's the way to go, to just blame Canada. I don't know if that's you know, the I'm not sure that's PC, but you said it. Coming down from the mountains, heading southeast. From which mountains? From the heading southeast from the mountains? Interesting. All right, I think I'm okay with what's happening here, but I need this. I need some more curls in here. I feel like I like curly branches and like kind of a unpredictable branch for this particular card because it's not just about the winter where there's no leaves on the trees. It's about the discontent and how it, like, I imagine like tendrils of just jealousy and being upset and hating everyone and yourself, mostly yourself, just kind of climbing into your flesh with all of these sharp tendrils and just like venom. But Shakespeare. So yeah, let me add some dimensions to this. And you know what? I'm not even gonna start a new thing, a new layer. I'm just gonna play on the layer that I'm on because it's so sketched out already, and I think I'll be able to clear it up and clean it up with just kind of, you know, cleaning it up. I'm a pro at speaking also. Pro at explaining what the frack I'm doing. And I'll bring one of these up here too. But I think this is the general idea for the whole card, is that I don't know that it matches the play as a whole, but honestly, I feel like these cards don't need to match the entire play as a whole. I feel like at any given time in our lives, we're not any one thing. So why should I try to make anything that is any one thing? And so I'm just gonna make this thing the strange, appalling, kind of creepy enigma that is this entire play. So that's what I'm after here. So yeah, I'm just gonna start adding some shadows. I feel like I should do the highlights first, but I also really like the phrase, don't shit on yourself. I want to do the dark first. I want to. What are you gonna do? Fire me from this job that doesn't pay me any dollars? I'm gonna do what I want. I think this is what I'm after. I think this is what I'm going for, though. I need to figure out when I do come down to adding the highlights. I do want to put a pop of color in here somewhere. And I haven't decided what that's going to be. I have this idea of doing a different pop of color for each of the 4 suits, which are tragedy, history, comedy, and other romance / problem plays. Last week I did Romeo and Juliet, had this pop of red. And I love red for a tragedy. Like, what kind of color pop would I use for a history? I want to, maybe a neutral. I really think a neutral would be a good idea. Because it's history, right? It's not like, it's not that we have answers. That it's not even that I want you to think a particular way. Maybe about the histories. Maybe about the histories I want you to just kind of go in remembering that while it's been labeled a history, we don't know the history. One, we don't know what was going on inside anyone's mind. Like, we're relying on, especially with Shakespeare, we're relying on the actors to figure out what was going on inside the minds of these historical figures. But even before we're talking about actors, we're relying on Shakespeare to write something, you know, hundreds of years after it actually happened. So these histories that we have are not history. They're not fact. They're obviously made up to, like, entertain the masses. And specifically with a lot of these histories, you can look at Holinshed's Chronicles, where Shakespeare blatantly took a lot of his history comes from there. And so if Holinshed was wrong, Shakespeare's wrong. And if Shakespeare's wrong, and we're determining everything that we know about these people from Shakespeare, then we're all wrong. Like, we cannot know the truth, the facts. We absolutely can't know what was going on inside these historical figures' heads. Like, will we ever know if the princes were murdered in the tower? I mean, maybe we will. I feel like we probably won't for a while, though. But, like, just like any of this stuff, we don't know. We have our speculations, we have our traditions, and I think there's a lot to be said for traditions. But do we know the truth, the facts? No, we don't know the facts. And I think we need to keep that in mind when we're talking about history. That we don't know the actual shit that went down. We have to take our history with a grain of salt. And I don't know. It sounds kind of problematic when you say it, right? But it goes for all history, not just the white people, you know? Or, that's not what I mean. Like, like think about America, you know, the way that we talk about Thanksgiving, right, being this, like, benevolent holiday where the natives, like, you know, shared their bounty with the settlers. But, you know, talk to the native people about that. And that's not the history. It's a history. So essentially, what I'm trying to get at is that this stuff is so far removed that we have no idea what happened. We have an idea. We have an idea, but do we have the facts? We don't have the facts. So maybe this card is about knowing the history, but also knowing that the history that you may have been taught might not be the actual truth of it. Like, you might have to search outside of what this one particular person says and find your own answers. Maybe. That's just a maybe thing. But are they related to the old oral traditions? I mean, I think they are. It's entertainment. So, and also some contracts is how they saw history. Yeah, I think that's true. I think that's absolutely true that it definitely could be related to the old oral traditions. For sure. Like, I feel like that's probably a pretty huge part of it, is that, like, this is what had been set down previously by, like, great great grandma who was there, you know, who saw the thing happen. But then I still wonder, like, kind of, I guess I wonder the politics of it. Who was, like, what if Clarence was a piece of trash? You know, what if these people weren't good? And also, like, what if they were, and this character who's been made out to be a villain, which he was. I think he was definitely a villain. He wasn't, I don't think he was on anyone's good side but his own. But, like, why? That's what I want to know, is why. Like, I think you're right. It was definitely an oral tradition type of situation where, like, when Shakespeare wrote it, it was definitely, like, probably everyone knew that Richard III was a bit of a turd. Richard the Turd, if you're Irish. Woo. But yeah, I do wonder. Like, I think you're absolutely right that it wasn't. It didn't come out of nowhere. I don't think it came out of nowhere. But I would like to know. Like, I just wish that we could know what he was actually thinking. Like, what was going on inside his head when he did this stuff. Or when any person annihilates a whole group of other people. Like, what is going on inside your head? Like, what did you think would happen? What were you trying to do? I don't know. I can feel myself getting canceled as I talk more about this. Canceled before I even began. I'm about to cancel myself, to be honest. So, it's all good. Yeah, it's just such a strange, like, enigmatic thing that we can form an opinion about something where, like, we don't even, like, nobody was alive. We didn't even have, like, we don't even have good records of it. I want to know. Sometimes I think about how pissed off I am to be a human because there are mysteries in the world that I will never know the answer to. And this is actually, like, all of history. All of history is one of those things. I curse the gods. Why did you put me on this planet and not give me access to the people who can tell me what was going on in Cahokia? Oh, hot girls here! Hot girls here! Hot girls here! Not interested. Take that shit somewhere else. People forget that history isn't a novel with a clearly defined good and evil. Many of history's worst villains did some okay stuff. And many of our favorite heroes were still awful people. Oh, that rings so true today with people like idolizing specifically like Hollywood types. And then they find out like that these people have like been abusive or, you know, done things in their lives that are reprehensible. And then they have to go, oh, well, you know, I didn't think he would ever do that. I like that is such an interesting, like, and such an apt observation that is like so true. We are so quick to idolize people, and and then inevitably we find out that they're actual trash people. Like certain authors that I grew up loving, thinking that, wow, this this author, like, man, they're really doing something good. I really appreciate what they're about. And then you grow up and find out that they're they're shitheads. Like 100% verified shitheads. Verified on Twitter shitheads. And you're just like, where the fuck did that come from? Like, I thought you were cool. The fuck? So that is super apt. Yeah, I think, like how they say never meet your heroes. I think that is really on kind of brand with that never meet your heroes thing. Because you will find out that they're bad people. Like, is just everyone kind of bad? Is that the wisdom, that just kind of everyone is a bit shit? I bet that Richard would have said yes. But he would have agreed that everyone's a bit shit. And that would probably have been his, like, cop out, you know? Well, everyone's a bit shit, so I can murder some princes. Just smother them under the mattress. No big deal. Because everyone's a bit shit. Hitler banned animal cruelty, and Attila the Hun invaded Rome because of a love letter. I did not know about either of those things. But yeah. I mean, Hitler was definitely more than a bit shit. He, like, murdered millions of people. And is still having repercussions from his actions to this day. So I'm gonna say that more than a little bit shit. It's a good descriptor for him. But yeah, like, I didn't know about the love letter thing for Attila the Hun. That's pretty nuts. So, like, and, like, there's no excuse. I want to make it clear. There's no excuse for the reasons why people do these things. But in their heads, they're doing the right thing. And I think that is what fascinates me. Like, how could you possibly, like, what is going on inside your head that you could possibly think that this is the right choice? Like, who broke you? What happened? Like, yeah, that I think is one of the most fascinating things to me, is to, like, try to understand, like, these people who do these disgusting things, they thought that they were correct. And that doesn't make sense to me. Like, make it make sense. I don't know that I could make it make sense. Right, very rarely does a person consider themselves the bad guy. And that's like an acting thing as well, where if you're playing the villain, you have to find the reason. Like you're not going to just kick a puppy because I'm a bad guy and I kick puppies. You have to find the reason that kicking a puppy is what you're doing. You know, like, there has to be a reason for these things. And that's, again, yeah, historically, people don't think themselves the bad guy. They think they're doing the right thing, which is, like, nuts and, like, super interesting. Like, how could you possibly think that is the right thing? How could... I don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't get it. The lesser of two evils. Yeah, same question. The lesser of two evils. Like, specifically, like, presidencies in the United States. are any of them good? Or are we just kind of choosing between the lesser of two evils? Like, that is a thing that I've thought about a lot as well. Lesser of two evils. It also makes me think of the Master and Commander scene where they're like, you always choose the lesser of two weevils. That always makes me chuckle. The lesser of two weevils. Which is, again, it's still messed up. The lesser of two evils is like a thing that, like, I wish wasn't a thing, you know? I wish we could just have a good, like a single good, instead of two evils. Like one good versus two evils. Could we just have one good? But no. We have to choose the lesser of two evils. Humanity. So I'm getting really close to done on the shadows, which I feel like is what we've been talking about a lot, is the darkness. I wonder if there is some light in this play somewhere that we could focus on for the highlights. What are the good parts in this play? A lot of people are also really bad at stepping into someone else's shoes, and as such, good for them registers as good overall because they don't consider the consequences for other people at all. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. Because empathy is a thing that I like to think that it's a natural, like, human response to be empathetic. But more and more I think it's taught. I don't know that human nature for all people includes empathy. Which honestly would have prevented the whole thing. If we're talking about Richard III as a conflicted, kind of sad, jealous man because his whole life he's been underestimated because of his disabilities, a little empathy might have gone a long way. But it seems like that's not as common sense as I wish it was. Man, can you imagine what a perfect world we would live in if, like, everybody understood how to be empathetic to other people? It would just be a totally different place to live. But instead, we got people who want to kill other people to secure power. For what? For freaking what? What good is power? What good is it? I would like to know. Maybe it's because I don't have it. Maybe that's why I don't understand what good it is. But I really don't understand what good it is. Why do people value power? Maybe someday I'll have it and I'll know. But off the top of my head, just seems like extra responsibility. All right, so here we are. I'm just gonna smudge out a bit of this weird ass tree. Weird ass tree. That is the scientific term. Weird ass tree. That's my Shakespeare voice. Why do people value power as an end as opposed to a means to an end? The possession of power seems to me to drive a lot of bad. Exactly. That's like exactly what I was saying. Like, what good is power just to have power? Which is why I think as a writer and as an actor, I look at a lot of fiction, like a lot of science fiction or fantasy a lot of times, especially, and go like, that was dumb. Like, what are you trying to do? And it seems like it's just power for power's sake. What is the end? What are you trying to accomplish with your power? Power for power's sake, I don't understand. Like, if I were to have power, I think I would let people like do whatever they want, like self-expression wise, gender wise. I would like let women have control of their own reproductive rights. That's crazy. Sorry, I even brought that up. But but that's not power. That's what I would do with the power. Like, why would I want power? And then when I think about doing these things with the power that I don't have or hypothetically had, I just am like even more like I don't want it because there's a lot of pressure, and quite frankly I'm fine on the pressure front. Like, I'm good, I'm satisfied there. So like, why do people want it? I don't understand. Richard III like characters in the Wheel of Time. There must have been. Robert Jordan stole from everything. There must have been a Richard III type character. But it's been so long since I read The Wheel of Time that I am not sure. Were there any characters that were just like, that just did a lot of bad shit because they felt like they were misunderstood, even though maybe they weren't misunderstood? Maybe people did have empathy for them, but they ignored that empathy. Rand. Yeah, I don't know. The Shan-Chan, maybe. Any number of the Shan-Chan. Yeah. They were definitely like that. Kind of like misunderstood, but like why though? That's an interesting thought about the Wheel of Time. But yeah, it's been too long since I've read those. So I don't know. I really do want to do a reread of The Wheel of Time, but it's just so much. So very, very much that I don't think I have it in me. Like, isn't it enough that I read it the first time? Isn't that enough? But I would love to hear your thoughts about whether you think there's someone Richardy, someone dickish in The Wheel of Time. Who's dickish in The Wheel of Time? The first thing that comes to mind is Rand, to be honest. But he, in the end, ends up... Well, I don't want to say, in case you're coming to this late in the game. But I think they have different destinies. I really do need to reread that. But at this point, I'm like, I could just watch the show, right? I don't need to reread if they're making a whole show about it. Is that the wise move? Just let Jenkins do the work. You read the end. Did you read everything else though? Skipped to the end? I feel like I want to add yellow to this. Way back in the 90s, you read the first 3 books and read the end. Honestly, I think that's the way to do it. That particular series, it really has its ups and downs. Although, if you skipped the 4th book is by far the best in the series, I think. But at the same time, if you got the chapter summaries, yeah, you're good. That's good enough. That would be a fun series to find the like pop culture figures who are most like Shakespeare characters. I'm really into this idea suddenly. that would mean I'd have to watch and like read other things. And I don't know that I necessarily have the time to devote. But I really want to do it. I'm going to have to add that to my list of like, when I run out of stuff for low-hanging Shakespeare, what will I do? Oh, well, I'll just equate Shakespeare characters to pop culture. Easy peasy. That said, I'm wondering if there's pop culture characters outside of Shakespeare or The Wheel of Time where Richard III's kind of archetype might be. I feel like Tyrion Lannister, in a way, might be a similar type of character where he's been underestimated and his brother has been raised up over him because of things that have been perceived as disability. And so like living life to kind of prove, and like doing terrible things to kind of prove that you're just as capable as your non-disabled siblings. I would say Tyrion Lannister is fairly Richard III-ish. Maybe you should email James and suggest a panel for Jake on what plus Shakespeare. Yes! Do it. Do it. I wouldn't end up being on that panel because I'm not a guest at that convention. Or at any convention, as far as I know. But I would be down for it. It would be a good panel for me to come and heckle. Because I, too, am underestimated. And I prove myself not by killing princes in the tower, but by heckling others. I mean, that's worthy, right? I have not seen Megamind. I haven't seen that. But I feel like I've heard of it. Should I watch it with a Shakespeare lens? Is that something that I need to do? It's one of those, like, DreamWorks things, isn't it? Animated movie. I don't really know anything about it, but I think I've heard of it. Yeah, DreamWorks maybe. Yeah, I'll have to check it out and see if it's Shakespearean. That's another interesting thing to think about. Not just like pop culture isn't just, you know, what adults watch. It's not just Game of Thrones. Pop culture is the kids too. What do we had? We had Romeo and Juliet. There was another one that they did that was like a clear knockoff of Shakespeare. I mean, The Lion King is Shakespearean. It's Hamlet, essentially. So that would be a whole other interesting thing to discuss. But I'll have to watch Megamind and see if it's kind of Richard III. decides to be most villainy villain because he gets pigeonholed as a child. Yeah, 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 exactly. I feel like that's like if we were to interview Shakespeare's Richard III, I feel like he would say a lot about, being imperfect as a person that and hated for his appearance and for the way he moves, not just figuratively through society, but literally through the world as a person with a disability. Because he does say what does he say? He says halting. That dogs bark at me as I halt by them. So he's saying that he's like walking with a limp, basically. So yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack about how we understand Richard III's villainy. And not that was he a villain, because I think yes. But I also don't think we could say that we don't, if we just have a touch of empathy, I don't think we could say that we don't understand why he went villainous. Lion King 2 I've never seen. Lion King 1, is that a thing? Lion King 1.5? Is that for real? Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead? Holy crap. That is one of my favorite plays. And I didn't know there was a Lion King 1.5. Is that for real? Tell me that's real. I will watch it immediately tomorrow while I'm at work. I will put that on if I can find it. Because that would be incredible. Holy crap. Oh my gosh, yes. I'm gonna watch it immediately. Like as soon as where is it streaming? And I'll put it on ASAP. Except I also feel like it would be one of those things that I couldn't watch while I'm at work because I would be too invested. Oh yeah, Disney Plus. I forgot that Disney Plus is a thing. I forget about that often. So I'm like just going to town on this moon here, or sun perhaps. It's some sort of celestial body with a brightness to it. And it's a little discouraging. Maybe I should pop it underneath. No, it was better where it was. Because it's, I don't know, the brushes that I'm using are so kind of subtle until they're really fucking not. And then it's like, oh my god, you really went ham-handed on that, didn't you? So I'm trying to get like the nice kind of midway between being like gently shaded and like actually showing up on the paper. Which is rough. From Timon and Pumbaa's perspective, for sure. Oh yeah, that's definitely Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. For sure. Which, oh my gosh, that's just an incredible play. That's kind of one of my favorite things about Shakespeare is that like it's been around for so long that people like kind of don't respect it anymore for it like being whatever this like pure literature bullcrap. It's been around so long that people will just do anything kind of remotely based on it. And I love that. I know that as a scholar, I should kind of be like, nose in the air about some of that stuff. But man, I love adaptations and just people taking other people's work and making it better, making it more fun. Because I mean, Shakespeare didn't write, he wrote it, but did he conceptualize it? No, he didn't. It's all fanfic. Oh man, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. One of the best things to happen since Shakespeare. Love it so much. I'm gonna have to watch the Lion King 1.5. All right, here we go. I'm gonna just pop some highlights onto this weird ass tree situation. Weird ass tree situation. Jealous tree. I'm gonna call it a jealous tree. Because it kind of, to me, anyway, it feels like not just a tree, but like something invasive. I need to add some color to this at some point very soon. And I'm thinking yellow. I think I mentioned that previously, but I also, it might be fun to just leave it white. Baby? Hi. Are you waking up? Wake up, little baby. Hi, little fan. Hi, little kitten. What are you doing? What are you doing, little sweet one? Aww. Hi. Hi, little Penny. Mm-hmm. You want to bother me over here? Mm-hmm. Aww. Hi, baby. Fenn's awake, everybody. Have a good one, Alex. Thanks for coming and chatting and hanging out. It was great. Aww. Fenn says, hello, everybody. What are you doing? What are you doing, little peepee? Hey. I wish you could all hear and feel her sweet purrs. Sweet little baby Finn. My most precious baby. What are you doing, Finn? No. Don't do that. Can I draw, please? Go back to your cat bed. Come here. Come here, baby. Oh. Do I hold you in one hand and draw with the other? Is this what we do? Is this the game we play? Beep, beep. Hmm? The baby. Hmm? Giving me a good purr, huh? You happy, baby? You happy, baby? I'm a happy baby. No. You can't go there. You can't go there right now. No. No. Fiend. Look at this thing. I need you all to look at this thing. This is both the highlight of my day and the bane of my existence. This thing right here. Is that you? Little Finn? Can I finish? Can I finish? I'm so close to done. So close to done, Finn. Hmm? Go back to your bed. Cat bed. Blah. Stay. She will not stay. Boop. She's purring so much. Poor thing. Poor baby thing. And now I'm also covered in cat hair. Ugh. The worst. Just kidding, I love her more than life. It's a problem.
Yeah, we also kind of had a little bit of lag between 7 and 8. And I think that also prevented.
I'm not entirely sure what to do with this background situation. I was thinking that I would go like kind of atmospheric perspective, sort of black to white, kind of. But I don't know if that will like make the whole thing a little too muddy. I might just have to try it and find out. But I think I'm quite satisfied with how this piece is looking. But underneath, I don't know what to do yet. Don't know what to do. So this piece definitely needs a highlight. And a smudge. This needs a smudge. And another highlight. Another highlight. And another smudge. Okay, this for sure. That for sure. And that. And that. Probably that. And probably this. Probably that. And this. Props. Yeah, let's go with it. But like, I don't know what to do behind everything. Back here where it's still gray. Haven't a clue. And do I need a clue? Or can I just do whatever I want? Clues be damned. I don't know. I mean, I'm the artist. I can't do whatever I want. The ghosts of Richard's army, just the tops of their helmets, and oh, that's good. That's real good. Interesting. Okay, that's a really good idea. The ghosts. Okay, how can I make ghosts in here without being like without doing too much, basically? Because one of the goals is that I want to spend about 2 hours on each thing, and I'm about close to 2 hours right now. So I don't want to do something that's like too involved and too detailed. Plus, if I go too detailed, you won't be able to see it in the background. Ghosts. Let's think ghosts. I'm going to start dark again. I love the idea of the ghosts, actually. I want a bigger darkness. I want a bigger darkness. Genius with the ghosts. Now, I don't know that when I draw these that they will be perceived as ghosts. But where'd you put the ghosties?
We got a hold. We got a hold. Should we go back to green over there? There's a lot of movement, but.
Ghosts. Genius. Again, I'm wondering if I should add a color to it, but I'm really enjoying it being just black and white.
That way there's no way for the travel of the
Really enjoying that part.
Everything and nothing.
The ghosts. The ghosties, I think.
I get it.
Need a better eraser. Okay. Really, really initially, I think I'm quite happy with how it's looking. I'm gonna just add some glow, you know? Know what I mean?
I don't know how that comes over there.
Just making my highlights a little more highlighty. I heard somewhere that it was like a cheap trick to add the white line behind a subject to show that it's backlit. But I'm gonna disagree. I'm gonna say that there's no cheap tricks. I'm going to say that there's only doing whatever the hell you want to do and using all the things at your disposal. And these white lines are at my disposal, and I would like to do them. So, suck it. The haters can suck it. Suck it, suck it. Like, the person, they said it was like a cheap way to add dimension or whatever. And I was like, it's all cheap if I'm not getting paid for it. So, let me do what I want. So thankful for undo. Right? Techniques that work for your vision of the art. For writing, I almost never use info dumps, but some people like them. It's true. Because, like, there's sometimes when an info dump is called for. Because, like, if you were to show everything, then your book would be just tremendously and terrifically boring. Yeah. Like, there's a time and a season and a place for everything. I believe this. Especially when it comes to creative things that are so much, like, so much depending on individual preferences, that you can't make rules. You cannot make rules for creative things like that, because what one person likes, another person ain't gonna like. What one person hates, another person is gonna love. So just do whatever the hell you want to do, basically. There's no rules to anything. Nobody knows what they're doing in the world. Everyone's faking it. Do whatever the hell you want. Which is my personal philosophy about art. Sure, study. Yeah, develop and hone your craft. But if something doesn't work for you, don't do it just because Shakespeare said it was good. Shakespeare said a lot of bullshit that wasn't true. So, do whatever you want. Okay, and so the ghosts, I think this is the kind of underlying thing of it, the theme, perhaps. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. Yeah. Right? No one told Richard III how to be king. He just did it his way. Exactly. Nobody knows anything. Just, like, we're all faking it. Some of us are faking it more morally without murdering people than others. I guess. Okay. So I just want to smooth these guys out a bit. Because they're a little wonkified. Where is this? Why is it unerasable? Those need to merge. Merge down, please. But what if I wanted to erase this? There's no erasing it. Why not? I don't know where it is. I don't know where that. This is the problem with digital art, is you don't. Sometimes you don't know where the mark is, and so you have to just like keep like clicking on layers to find out where is this mark coming from so that I can get rid of it. And right now I'm looking at this white chunk right here. It's in here. It's not a white chunk, it's a lack of black chunk. Bam. Is that like a tinfoil ball effect? It's so this particular brush is called it's called the soft pastel brush. So it's kind of adding in the texture to there's the source of the texture. Like that's the initial shape. And then by adding all of these various effects to that shape, it gives it this, like, so it looks like pastel paper, basically. So that's kind of what I'm doing to give it a little bit more, a little bit more texture, but I kind of want to add a little softness, I think, to the lower down bottom tree. Because this is so bright right here, where it's like very obviously like, you know, right up against the moon feature. But then these harsh lines here kind of just stop in the middle of nowhere. So I want to texturize and soften them up a bit so that there's more of a tapered finish to it, I guess. I have no idea about building terrain. Are you talking about like for building like dioramas? Is that what you mean? I plead ignorance about building terrain. I just like to use a little bit of texture in the erasing, because in the smudging it kind of gets rid of all the texture, and I like to keep some kind of like, let's pretend I did this on paper aspect. I didn't. It's an iPad. No paper was harmed in the making of this card. Well, some paper I'm sure was, but not by me. See how nice it is when it's texturized? It looks almost like a computer didn't do it. I am AI. Oh yeah, tabletop gaming. Yeah, that makes sense. I think that is so cool that people go so in depth to like build a diorama for their tabletop game. Like that makes me want to actually do some kind of gaming, because that sounds like fun. And then acting with your friends, that sounds like fun too. But like learning rule books, I can't get behind. I just can't get behind it. Too lazy. Far too lazy. But at the same time, I'm not too lazy to like build a diorama. I'm not sure what my laziness like factor is. Is there a way to like formalize where a person is lazy? Is there lazy categories? I'm lazy when it comes to learning rules for things. Not lazy when it comes to making cool shit. Like, I always wanted to paint miniatures. But then I always thought, like, what would I do with them? I don't know if I like role-playing games. Just because I'm too lazy to learn all the rule books, basically. All right. Ghosts? Ghosts, maybe? I think I like the idea of the sketches in the background being the ghosts. This piece, the little blue section. I think I like that. Also, I swear I already did this. I must have accidentally undone it or like deleted a layer or something. I don't know. So that's a negative for a strike against using digital is that sometimes stuff just disappears that you've already done. And so you got to do it again. And then you are forever wondering what happened to all that work that I did. What happened to my work? But yeah, I think that if I leave the sketch in, maybe make it even a little bit bolder, that it maybe kind of shows that there is a history before the product that everyone sees. And that is the kind of the whole point, I guess. That somehow we got from like this human who actually existed to now is the winter of our discontent, which is a whole fabricated thing that we don't know if it's even real. So yeah, let me just I think delete a little bit in here. And maybe, 'cause, 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 make it a little softer around that edge. A little bit more glow. And then we'll call it a day. All right. I think that's where we're at. I think that's Richard III. I think I want to go over it a little bit and refine a couple edges, but it's also been 2.5 hours, so I think I want to leave it at this for now, and call it Richard III, the winter of our discontent made summer made glorious summer by this son of York. Is it a sun? Is it a moon? I don't know. It's up to you. Not a particularly positive piece of art. But they don't all have to be, do they? So, there it is. Richard III. With a little refinement, that will be card number 2 in the Shakespeare Oracle deck. Okay. Thank you for... Hi, Nandi. I'm still live, but I'm wrapping up. This is the semi-finished product. I don't know. I might go over it a little bit more to kind of refine it a little bit. But also, it might be nice to just leave it messy, because some people are messy. So, I might be one of them. Yeah. Yes. So yeah, thanks for hanging out and talking about Richard III with me. Next week, I think, is Much Ado About Nothing. Much Ado About Nothing next week. So I'll be reading that on Sunday, and I'll be painting it or drawing it like so on my little iPad on Thursday of next week. Assuming everything goes according to plan. What is that? The 19th? Got nothing on except for drawing. So I'll be doing Much Ado About Nothing. I have no idea what I'm going to draw next week. I really hope it's something a little lighter hearted. The first 2 cards have been kind of like really kind of introspective and kind of heavy-ish. So I really hope that next week I come away from Much Ado About Nothing with something a little kinder to myself and others. But I will be coming at that as someone who has played the villain in the show. So it will be hard to take myself away from that. But I'm going to try to find something that speaks to me that's maybe a little more serendipitous, a little more lighthearted, a little more fun, maybe, hopefully. So come at me next week with your Much Ado thoughts and questions, and we'll find something to make out of that together. Yeah. Like and subscribe, I guess. I don't know. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for telling me this was fun. It really means a lot to me that you hung out the whole time and listened to me babble on about nerdy stuff. It does mean probably more than you know that you like listened to me and like hung out with me because I need some friends. But yeah. Thank you. I will see you all next week, I hope.